Welcome back to WagerTalk.com. I'm Marco D'Angelo, joined with Preston the Sports Cheetah and Bryan Leonard. We're going to preview a big one in the Pac-12 on Saturday. Last week we did UCLA and USC, and UCLA had a big win over USC. Now they're going up against Arizona. It is a revenge game for UCLA. I'll start with you, Bryan. We're projecting this number to be somewhere in the neighborhood of Arizona minus 2.5, 3 points in this game. How do you see this one?
Yeah, so much of this in college basketball, when you've got that game between, playing on Thursday, the Bruins are playing Arizona State, and then obviously Arizona is playing USC. So as long as nothing strange happens, once again, as we preface it, I make this line 2.3, so I'm going to let the line tell me which side I like. You've got a UCLA team that's just phenomenal shooting team, 61.2% effective field goal percentage. Have we ever seen that before? I don't pay that much attention to it, but this year they're just blowing everybody away. I think they're the only one over 60% in that on the season. But then you have an Arizona team who's undefeated at home all season long, and their closest win at home has been by 5 points. So you're getting a really good shooting team going into Arizona who rarely loses at home. I think 2.3 is about where it should be, and we'll have to see. If I can get an advantage either way, it's going to have to be 2 points off of that number.
Yeah, I'll go on record. If it's 2.5, I'm going to be on Arizona. Personally, I think the number is going to come a little bit higher because Arizona did beat them in UCLA. And the number up there when they played was 5. UCLA was 5 there. So, if you just do this switch on home court, would be higher, and then if you adjust it a little bit for them winning up there, I think it's going to come out higher. I'm not as sold on UCLA, even though I had a big play on them Saturday last week. It was just the right setup against USC. I just don't like this team defensively. Yes, they're great offensively. 8 of their last 11 games, they've shot well over 50% against their opponents. But they're going against a team that can play some defense, Arizona. And as you said, this is a tough home floor. How do you see this one, Preston?
Yeah, I don't know if you probably watched the game. You may have missed it, but they showed a graphic in the end of that USC game. UCLA defensively, it was like, I know you mentioned the last 7 games for Florida. It might have been about the last 7 games. Similar thing, I think only one team shot above 40%, and it was like 43. But UCLA defensively has been much, much better, like remarkably better. And so if there are any bit of, that versus when they played Arizona before, then they're going to be in this game, and they're shooting as well. So it's kind of a little bit of that Golden State Warriors, like, eye test is deceiving you because they give up 100 and something a game. That's because they play so fast. There's so many possessions. But you really break down the defensive efficiency, for 3 straight years, the Warriors were in the top 3. I think last year maybe they fell off to the 4 or 5, but the 2 years prior than that, they had the number 1 defense one of the years. It's very similar. UCLA's not a number 1 defense or anything, but they've gotten a lot better. Teams are shooting under 40% against them regularly for the last 3 weeks. I think the number's supposed to be 2. So for me, if it does come higher because they won in UCLA, and it might because I bet UCLA too when I expected the number to be like 12 against USC and it was 9.5. I was like, okay, so I hit it. And, it didn't, I think it closed 10.5, and, I was short there. So maybe this one, if I'm off again another 1.5, maybe I do get plus 3.5 or plus 4. And if that's the case, I'll probably be looking to back UCLA again. I just think their defense has actually been flying under the radar. Look it up. Look at their box scores. Look at the last 6, 7, 8 games, and they've been remarkable on D. And so if their offense stays what it is and they can play better defense this time against Arizona, I think they're going to get the W.
The one thing that I do is I like to go back to the first meeting and look when they played and what the situations were. In UCLA, obviously at home against Arizona, they were in a good spot because they had played at home back-to-back games. They played the game before against Arizona State, so they were home. And Arizona State was, an easy 102-80 win, win by 22, and they still weren't able to get the job done against Arizona, who had a tougher schedule that weekend because they played at USC on the Thursday night game and then played at UCLA on Saturday. Now, granted, it's not a big travel spot, but it was back-to-back, big games, and yet Arizona was able to get the job done. Now it's reversed this week. They'll be at home for the back-to-back game, so I give them a little bit of an advantage. I leaned Arizona in this one. Preston, sounds like you're on UCLA in this one.
Yeah, I think so, especially if it ends up being higher than 3.
Yeah, and UCLA, to me, is a little bit better of the team. They lost at home, so I don't see how they would make Arizona even higher here when you've got the better team coming off of a home loss revenge. I think I'll end up with the UCLA somewhere here.
All right. Keep with the pattern. I'm opposite you guys. We'll see how it works out next week. You got 2 votes for UCLA, 1 for Arizona. And guys, don't forget, if you want to save $10 this week in honor of the horrendous trade in the NBA over the All-Star break with the Sacramento Kings, we're going to make the coupon code KINGS and $10. Just use Kings and the number 10. You'll save $10 on any purchase at Wager Talk this weekend. That's basically what the Kings got for DeMarcus Cousins, was basically a coupon. But check it out, and we're actually going to have a video about that trade later in the show. So be sure to check that out at wagertalk.com, and we'll be back with more here at Wager Talk.